This is Sports Charlotte, the podcast about sports in Charlotte. My name is Herb White. I'm editor-in-chief at the Charlotte Post. This is Cameron Williams, staff reporter at the Post. And as promised, we have a first-round NFL draft edition of the podcast. Yeah, the circus has opened, and there were a few surprises, but since we are primarily concentrating on the Carolina Panthers, let's talk about the surprise the Panthers sprung, at least to most of America. I wasn't necessarily surprised, and
that's because you wanted
said so. No, it was. I look at it like this: Tet McMillan, and I'm going to try to get his name right without killing it. Apologies if I do. Tetiora McMillan. First team All-America receiver from Arizona. First receiver taken in the first round. And I've been saying for the last few weeks, this was an area of need for the Panthers. And he was the best receiver in the country. Maybe even better, dare I say, than Monsieur Hunter over at Colorado, now of Jacksonville. He checks off a lot of boxes. He's not the fastest dude, but at 6'4", great body control, can win you a 50-50 ball, and fills an immediate need for Carolina.
Now that the voice of reason is done, horrible pick. You could have gotten a receiver to complement your current receiving core in the 4th or 5th round. This was such a wasted pick. You needed to address linebacker first. You needed to address defensive line first. You needed to address the defensive back room first. Horrible. Before I go off the deep end, I'll say he will be a great addition to the receiver room. But you could have traded back and got this guy. You could have traded back, got some extra picks, and you could have still got this guy. Rather than waste your 8th on him, where you could have got Jalen Walker, should have got Jalen Walker. I don't like the pick. I think you really needed to address defense first. But, no, what do I know?
Is that how you really feel?
A little bit.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't disagree with the needs, but again, the point is the Panthers have so many needs. All you have to do is throw a brick. You were bound to hit one. So whether it's a receiver, who I think will be an asset to the receiving core, because if you stop and think about it, they picked Xavier Legette last year. Good addition. He had some issues with dropping passes and nagging injuries that slowed his progression. You've got Adam Thielen, who is on the back 9, maybe the back 4 in his career.
He's coming down the green mile.
And Jalen Coker, who was a revelation last year as an undrafted free agent. Those are my favorite types of players, the ones who are totally overlooked in the draft. And Tet McMillan gives them future cushion, because now you've got 3 young players who are all playing on rookie deals. They're going to be around. And if Bryce Young shows any sort of improvement from what he did over the last part of the 2024 season, you've got a really good combination working now. So, but of course, everything in football is in concert. So you've got to have the line that will hold up long enough for these folks to work their magic. But I think that receiver was an obvious need. You can make an argument that the defense was so bad that you needed to make some decisions to improve it. But I think they did more to fix that defense in free agency that lessened that urgency to go out and grab some defensive help at number 8. That's my thing, and strangely enough, the Panthers agreed.
Yeah, one of my friends on Facebook actually commented on the status of WBTV where they showed Jalen Walker get drafted by the Falcons, and he's like, well, if you're Carolina, when you have a quarterback, a GM, and a head coach that all agree on the same guy, what are you going to do? I don't know if he was in favor of the pick or if he wasn't, but I think it's tough. I mean, it's tough to make those decisions. That's why they get paid the big bucks to do it. But it is funny. Our correspondent Jeff Hawkins, he's wrote a piece about Tet and Canales' take on it was we got a basketball team. I thought that was kind of unique because, I mean, Leggett 6'3", Coker 6'3", Thielen is 6'2". Now you got a 6'4" guy. So they've got height. Do they have hands?
Tet McMillan's got hands.
Xavier Leggett dropped a lot of passes last year.
I understand that, but, this is a different guy. But I understand what you're saying.
It was unique. He also made mention, I don't think I've seen this anywhere, so shout out Jeff. Bryce Young actually faced off against McMillan's high school team in 2019 where Bryce Young in modern day won 56-11, but that's really no shock. Modern day is just different. But all in all, I'll try to be slightly objective. I'll grade the pick C-.
C-, huh? Okay.
Well, I mean, you look at it, didn't give it an F because they needed defense.
So you're saying they overreached to the point of this being a poor pick?
It's slightly below average.
Really? Okay.
I wasn't huge on the pick. I mean, my dad was sitting there and he was like, "What? Why aren't they addressing defense?" And then, lo and behold, Jalen Walker kept falling, and then all of a sudden Atlanta picks, and he's like, "They're gonna take Jalen Walker. I just know it. They took Jalen Walker." Mm-hmm. So he's gonna be out for the Panthers. I can tell you that. Jalen Walker won't take this lightly. Time will tell. I know you say the Falcons and Panthers are equals. They hadn't been in a long time, but sure.
If you look at the NFC South standings, neither one of them have won a title in the last 4 years. It's Tampa Bay's division.
One has been above the other for quite some time.
Not necessarily last season, but last season is last season. And we'll see how this all unfolds because I'm of the opinion that in the modern NFL, you got to put points on the board. If you're not scoring, you have no shot at winning.
That's great. They can score 35 a game, but with that defense, they're going to give up 40.
Well, but again, if you addressed a good chunk of your issues in free agency, you have experienced people that you're going to slide in on this group. You've taken out or lost some people that didn't necessarily fit into the plans anyway. That's an upgrade. But even at that, let's face the hard, cold fact here that drafts are not made on day one.
That's true.
If you're going to build a title contending roster, you're going to have to put in some work past that first round and beyond. So let's move to the weekend and where you think Carolina will go. And with the previous podcast, we laid out the scenarios in terms of where those needs are.
Lord hope they go defense. If they go offense with their next pick, whether it be O-line or tight end, or there's no hope. You have to pick either a linebacker or an edge here, in my opinion. Even a tackle. I don't think they can afford to go anywhere but defense. As far as who, that's a good question. It really depends on who all is left because there were a lot of good edges and good linebackers taken in the first round. So, I guess my question to you is, if the best edge and the best linebacker is available, which position do you address first, edge or linebacker?
Edge.
Really? So you're going to pass on the linebacker twice?
Edge. The NFL is still mostly a pass-first league. So you either have to get yourself a stud quarterback or an effective quarterback. And to counter it, you have to have people who can beat up that quarterback. So by all means, you need to get folks on the edge. Now, if you're soft in the middle, it's not going to really make much difference because folks are going to run on you. But they have Derrick Brown coming back from a knee injury. So I would think that if he's healthy, they've got their stud defensive tackle. And that's the thing to keep in mind, that getting him back after having him absent for all but, 2 quarters of a game last year, that's like signing a first-round draft pick again. You've got your stud DT right there. So if you wanted to add another one, okay, that's fine. But no doubt in my mind, you need people who can get after the quarterback. So yes, go out and get yourself some pass rushers. And this defense will start to look better than it was last year.
So by pick 57, say T.J. Sanders, the defensive tackle for South Carolina, is available. But you got an edge in either Jordan Birch, J.T. Tuamalo, that's Ohio State and Oregon. Do you still go edge, or do you take what's best available, which would be Sanders?
Well, the Panthers seem to be insistent on best available.
Well, so that would be a D tackle.
If that is the scenario that plays out.
Yeah,
but I would imagine, though, at some point, there's going to be diminishing returns the later you go in terms of defensive ends or pass rushers that will make an impact in year one. By the time you get down to those later rounds, now you're talking about development guys. But if you want somebody who can make an impact immediately, I would think that the second round is going to be the place where they're going to get it.
Okay. Hypothetically, a team comes up with a trade offer. Let's say Pittsburgh comes along, and they're like, we'll give you Alex Highsmith for your second and 2 late picks and a future second round. So you're giving up 4 picks for Alex Highsmith. No, really?
No. Alex is a good dude. He's from North Carolina. Played his high school ball in Wilmington. My wife knows his family, but no, he's not worth all that. That is too much of a haul.
You're not giving up any.
Now, you said TJ Watt?
Okay, that's
okay.
2 second rounds and 2 late rounds this year. It's not like you're giving up a first round pick.
Yeah, but those seconds, that's capital that you're going to need at some point, I would think. But
he's a proven guy. See, the one
absolutely.
thing you gamble with in the draft is you're talking about guys that are proven at the college level. And your favorite saying.
Yep.
College stud.
Pro dud.
So, I guess that'd be tough for me. Because I'm looking at, we're giving up 2 second rounds, which is tough. One's next year. And you're giving up 2 late, say, 5th or 6th round picks this year.
That eats into an awful lot of capital.
Yeah, but it's a proven guy who.
Now, if you're saying Highsmith and a draft pick or 2 in addition to him, now that's more.
Well, see, Pittsburgh ain't that crazy.
Well, and the Panthers would be crazy under your scenario.
But I think
I'm talking about
4
bat
picks,
poop crazy.
4 picks for a proven player versus. Because if you're asking them to give up picks too, that's almost. That's less, or that's almost making Alex feel like his value's less.
No, I'm just saying.
Okay.
Highsmith for 4 draft picks is more than.
I'm not asking
for. I could stomach.
I'm not saying a first rounder.
No. I'm just saying, but even if you're talking about second round picks, and because Pittsburgh doesn't have a second rounder.
I do not believe so.
So that's going to make things a little dicey because
well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you could give him this second round pick right here, next year's second round, and then 2 late round picks. I'm telling you, for a proven guy that you know what he's capable of at the pro level, that's tough.
Don't get me wrong, he is a fabulous player, but I think that price is a little rich.
So, what current NFL player would you be willing to give up 2 seconds and 2 late round picks for? And don't say Myles Garrett or Micah Parsons, because that's not happening. You'd have to give up 2 first rounds.
Well, especially after Cleveland has done what it did with re-signing Garrett. I'm not exactly sure. But I don't know with that scenario if there was anybody that I could really put I'm sure that there is somebody out there who might dangle that type of player, but then I would want to know why. When pass rushers are outside of quarterback, that's what everybody's looking for. Everybody is looking for pass rushers. So if you're talking about giving up a first line pass rusher, then I would want to know why. When everybody is scrambling trying to get one or 2, because most of the time you need to pair these folks together. So
no, I mean that's true, because normally you're not giving up your a franchise centerpiece. So yeah,
I'm just saying.
Well, so they picked 57th and then 74th. That's their second and third round pick, assuming no trades. I go defense with both of them.
I think that would be the safe play to make.
Either tackle and edge and linebacker, linebacker and tackle. Those are the 3 positions you need to address now.
Yeah, that front 7 without a doubt. Followed by somewhere in the secondary, either another safety or a corner, because given J.C. Horn's history, now granted he got his bag this year, but given his history, you might want to try to backstop corner so that you can have somebody in-house that you can develop and have ready to go, maybe as a nickel or as a backup on the island to help that group out. And it's not like the Panthers have been studs in the secondary in recent years either. So I don't think you can go wrong with any spot on defense, but for sure you want to work on that front 7.
Once you get at least the front 7 done, I would even then start considering maybe some O-linemen. Like we said yesterday, they've done what they could, at least in free agency last year, kind of at least putting, like I said, a Band-Aid on a bullet hole that was an offensive line issue. But now you got the chance to draft some guys. I thought they would address defense first last night. Turns out they didn't. Now that's where they're at. You address defense, and then I would say get Bryce a little bit more time in the pocket.
Yeah, they spent big in free agency last year to put guards in place on that line, and it worked out really well, especially for the run game. And considering that Taylor Moton is steady, he's going to be your every down tackle, and he may never get to a Pro Bowl, may never be all pro, but he is steady.
Icky's got to step up.
Yeah, and so could that be the place where they look for help? And the other side of that is, if you're looking for an offensive lineman, do you value versatility or that one single position that you're going to plug this person into? So I think that, if you've got somebody who can play multiple positions on the offensive line, that's where the value is. And if you can locate that person, then that's to the good.
It would be another failed first-round pick by the Panthers if you're looking to replace Icky. I mean, people forget this man was taken 6th overall.
Yeah. Well, I'm not ready to say he's a failure. He had a really good rookie year.
And
the second year struggled.
This past year really struggled.
Well, yeah. But again, maybe it's one of those prove-it seasons because you're talking about going into that 4th season. There's the possibility of an option year, but you've got to play your way into it. Yeah. So it's an opportunity for him to pull himself together and go out and make your money, or else, as we all know, it's the NFL, so folks will get rid of you without as much of a goodbye.
Yeah, I just know Pro Football Focus, and I know some people get into all the analytics. I'm kind of one of those guys. His grade was like a 70.7 last year versus Taylor Moton, who was pushing 78. Usually it's kind of good to have your offensive line all a little bit better than 70, at least more equal, because, I mean, you got to understand, he's covering the blind side.
Mm-hmm. It's the most important position. Well, maybe center is almost as important because without a good exchange, you got a problem anyway.
Yeah.
But physically, it's the most important position.
But you don't want Bryce getting battered, especially when he's not able to see something like that. Because, I mean, okay, yeah, the exchange between the quarterback and center, that's extremely important. But you got a left tackle that's giving up pressures and then equating in sacks.
Yeah.
Your back's facing. I mean, you don't see somebody. That's fumbles. Fumbles or that's injuries.
Mm-hmm.
So it's time to step up. But like I said, you can address the offensive line a little bit later. Defense tonight.
Agreed. So. I mean, don't get me wrong. Even though I think the Tet McMillan pick is going to be a plus for Carolina, you still need to work on that defense.
What would you grade the pick? I gave my grade for it. I know you were big on Tet for whatever reason.
I mean, just watching him play, it's like this dude is, and I understand you have to temper expectations because there's a big gap between college football. I don't care how high the level is. There's a big gap between that level and the NFL because we're talking about grown men across the board. But I just see something where he has an intricate ingredient where it will benefit whoever's throwing him the ball. I mean, it's not even a matter of, Bryce Young will be the immediate beneficiary, but I think that regardless of who his quarterback is in the NFL, he's going to make that passer better.
I wonder what Tet McMillan, what his numbers would be on, say, Texas or in Oregon, where they've got guys. I mean, you're talking about Oregon, who has Tez Walker, they have Trayshawn Holden, a lot of great receivers who are probably going to end up being drafted at some point. But the reason these guys aren't in the first or second round, I truly think is because they're playing beside guys that are also of that caliber. He was by far the best receiver at Arizona. What would he do if he had a guy with similar skills playing on the other side of the field as him?
Well, but that's the point. Obviously, the Panthers believe that he has unique skills. And if you're talking about that size, the ability to separate, even though he's not a burner, and the catch radius, I think, is what really stands out about it. At 6'4", he's taller than any DB.
Well, that's true.
And
but now you've
vertical, so it's like, okay, well, yeah.
But to my point, now you've got a guy that's going to be lined up opposite, not opposite offense, defense, on the other side of the offense, who's similar skill set. First round pick last year, Xavier Legette. So now, will his impact be a little bit more diminished because he's not the guy? Or do you think he'll continue to put up those kind of numbers? I mean, it's a valid question.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it.
I mean, Texas with Bond, and I mean, they've got receivers galore, and you could even throw in Alabama in there with Ryan Williams, the freshman, and then so they've got guys all around them. So what makes them stand out? That's why they ended up falling to the 4th, 5th, or 6th round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, but the other side of that, and by the way, I would give this pick a B plus. I would give it a B plus. I know you gave it a C. I give it a B plus. Is it a home run? I would never, under most circumstances, say that about any pick because there's always the great unknown in the NFL. But I think with Dave Canales' offense, this is an opportunity for Bryce Young to have his security blanket, even though he doesn't play tight end. You know, this is the dude that he can look for when all else looks pretty grim.
Yeah.
You can just swing it out there to Tet McMillan. It's like, okay, well, yeah, we're going to get a completion with this one. So that would be my initial take on it. Canales has shown that he is good at developing pitch and catch.
Yeah.
And this is as good a combination, I think, as the Panthers could hope for with their drafting the last couple of years with Baguette. If they can get him fixed in terms of dropping passes.
Put some stick 'em on them gloves, boy.
Well, yeah, put something on him, but if they can get him corrected and moving in the right direction on a consistent basis, that's a pretty good receiver group.
Is Tet going to be able to, I get the height and I get he's taller, but is he going to be able to generate and create enough space between him and his defender to get up, to even be able to get up and get those jump balls?
That might be the one aspect that will need the most work because the NFL does have more of a leaning towards press coverage, which means you're going to have to be physical. I'm not so sure that he's seen enough of that, considering that he played at Arizona in the Big 12, where not a whole lot of defense was played. And so, if you talk about that physicality, if you can't get off the line, then yeah, that's going to be a problem because you can't separate if you're stuck within that 5-yard window.
Well, we're not going to keep y'all too long today. We did want to give y'all a little post-first round reaction. As you can tell, some are glass half full. I'll give him his props. Normally, he's a glass half empty kind of guy. He's a glass half full guy. I'm the glass half empty, or the glass almost empty kind of guy today. C for me. Well, I said C minus originally. I'll be a little nice. I'll say C. B plus for this guy. Leave us a comment on Jeff Hawkins' story. What do y'all think? What would y'all grade the first round pick? Are y'all happy with it? Are y'all upset about it? What do they need to address tonight? What do they need to address on Saturday? And that marathon of 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th round picks.
Now, the good news is you're only 5 minutes between picks. So
Well, those days I think it's 2. Tonight's 5.
It's still going to drag on and on and on.
I will give him a little bit of credit last night. It seemed like it was moving along pretty quickly because by the time they'd say the pick is in and then they get the guy out there, by the time you actually saw the clock for the next team, it was down to about 5 or 4 minutes already. So they moved it along. It wasn't like, okay, they bring the guy out and then they go up to, and now this team's on the clock, and then they'd run a whole 10 minutes that way. They moved it along well last night. Believe me, I've seen some first rounds where I was up way past midnight watching them conclude that thing.
Me too. And I've seen a heap of them, but it was not bad as far as the TV production.
I was in the sack by about 11:15ish, so I'll give them their props.
Yeah.
Well, how about giving props around here?
Yeah. So, in the meantime, go to our website, thecharlottepost.com, become a donor, subscriber. That way you can get the print version, or you can even get the e-edition. Become a subscriber. Or you can subscribe to our sports newsletter. It comes out every week, and we're talking about football a good chunk of the time because, well, football never ends, as well as all the other sports that are played in Charlotte by Charlotteans and folks who come here from someplace else. So go to our website and turn yourself on to that. we would appreciate it. And we also appreciate you being here for the Sports Startup Podcast on video at our YouTube page, as well as Queen City Podcast Network. So the next podcast, we will review the haul that the Panthers come up with and turn our attention to the start of rookie camp in May. Yeah.
Never ends.
Never ends. So for everybody here at the Post, here in beautiful Derrida, I'm Herb.
I'm Cam.
Thanks for listening and watching.